What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today, we're going to be talking our top 5 biggest boom or bust running backs for the 2022 fantasy football season. If you want, you can think about this like the biggest risks at the position. Either way, we're going to look at the names and why they belong on this list. So make sure to tune in. If you enjoy, hit that like button, subscribe, give us a follow on Twitter at AllDayPigskin to continue interacting with us there. Let us hear it in the comment section. Do you agree, disagree with these boom or bust selections, these risky running backs for the 2022 season? Who else would you put on this list, along with any other questions you guys might have? We will do our best to answer them all. And lastly, check out the 2022 ADP Fantasy Football Draft Guide, now available for purchase. Has everything you can want at a great price. Top 150 overall player rankings in standard and PPR formats, individual player bios, tiers, projections, along with general fantasy advice. Details in the description. But with that being said, let's get into it. And as you can see, we have got our consensus rankings here on Fantasy Pros pulled up. We're going to look at this from a PPR standpoint, but I would argue more so we're going to be dissecting the names. They're all big names, so it doesn't really matter whether it's PPR or standard formats. These are guys that are all being drafted, relatively early on. Now, without further ado, let's kick it off, and we're going to kick it off immediately with one Javonte Williams over the Denver Broncos. On this list, he comes in at the number 12 spot, but in terms of drafts, I've seen him drafted anywhere from the early second round to, end of the second to the third round. Typically, that's his ADP. And I'm here to tell you that, he's currently being drafted, I feel like, at his ceiling. And, this isn't supposed to be me bashing on these guys that are on this list. No, I think they're all very talented. I can absolutely see the upside. And I can see the upside for Javonte Williams. I mean, he was my favorite prospect last season. I just don't like the landing spot. The Broncos are a team that have gone running back by committee for the last couple of years. And yes, they're going to be a much better offense now with Russell Wilson manning the show. But it's the whole Melvin Gordon of it all. I feel like Javonte Williams now is being drafted almost as if Melvin Gordon isn't there. But the Broncos specifically brought Gordon back. And I mean, if you look at last season, Gordon, there were numerous instances where he was just as good, if not better, than Javonte Williams. In fact, in certain formats, he outproduced Javonte Williams. And look, if I told you, okay, you're going to get something that's very similar to Javonte Williams from last year, but you have to draft him in the second round, I feel like that's the risk associated with it here. And sure, look, if there's an injury to one of these guys, then the other is going to be propelled into fantasy stardom. I absolutely understand that, but we can't bank on injuries. And I feel like everybody right now is treating this situation as if Melvin Gordon is going to be a non-factor. I still think he's going to get his fair share of opportunities. He's going to be a factor in the red zone and in the pass catching department. And really what this boils down to is a running back by committee situation with a very competent, quote unquote, backup running back, because I do think Javonte Williams will get the majority of the carries, but I don't think it'll be by as much as people think. And at the end of the day, paying second round draft capital for a situation where there is a running back by committee, that is too rich for my blood. I understand the upside, but I think that we need to draw attention to the risk here. And it's the fact that you can get Melvin Gordon, who could potentially do something very similar to Javonte Williams, like 3, 4, 5 rounds later, depending on the size of your leagues, depending on where Javonte Williams is drafted. But let's continue to move on here. And next, I want to touch on Alvin Kamara. Maybe this is a little bit unfair because the main reason Kamara is on this list is because of his possible suspension. But as of right now, we still don't have any news on that said suspension, whether it's going to be, just a handful of games, 2, 3 games, or what we've heard more so than not is right around 6 games. And if that's the case, then, well, Kamara, a guy that's in full PPR scoring, usually locked and loaded, RB1, I mean, that's the main reason why right now you see him as the running back 14. And if it's a 6-game suspension, that's almost a third of the fantasy season. That's a big deal. Now, yes, when he comes back, I imagine he's going to be his normal Kamara self, which is, again, an RB1, especially in PPR formats. But the thing here is, it's all about the uncertainty. And if you draft Alvin Kamara, because I've still seen people draft him, in the early second round, I think that's what this inclusion is more so meant to be. It's meant to highlight the fact that with Alvin Kamara right now, he's still a big question mark. Yes, when he's on the field, huge upside, one of the best pass catching running backs in the NFL. I mean, like a top 5, running back option. And that's why the upside is still also huge because, when he does return, he's going to retain that upside. Now, I will say last season, something that I absolutely hated with Kamara is that he is so tied to the quarterback position because without Jameis Winston, we saw it, when he got hurt and it was the Taysom Hill show, Alvin Kamara was a non-factor. He wasn't getting the same quality carries. He wasn't getting the same pass catching work. And in those situations, he wasn't even really an RB2, which is what the scary part was. I'm hoping, knock on wood, Jameis Winston will stay healthy, but it's worth bringing to people's attention. It just happened last season. Saints haven't really made an upgrade at the quarterback position. So in my opinion, that's also something worth keeping an eye out for. But right now, the main thing is that possible looming suspension. If it really is a 6-game suspension, then it's going to be hard to draft him in the first 2 rounds. Then you're going to be looking at him probably in the 3rd round, something like that, maybe a little bit later. But for that primary reason, I think he does have to be on this list. Now, a way to really mitigate that and potentially get a steal here is I'd say just draft Mark Ingram. I think that's the easiest solution with, any of the running backs that are going to be on this list. Kamara, since he has an asterisk next to his name, it's a pretty easy solution, and that's the good thing. Right now, Mark Ingram is the main backup. I think that's going to remain the case. He's a proven commodity, and he's been able to get it done before while Alvin Kamara's been unavailable just as recently as last season. So for that reason, I do think here with Alvin Kamara, it's at least a situation where, it could be a lot worse. But let's continue to move on here, and we're going to talk one Breece Hall of the New York Jets. Comes in at the number 21 spot. And I think it's really a situation here where people are trying just, okay, we got to hit on the next rookie running back and force a situation. I've seen Breece Hall being drafted as early as the 2nd round. I've seen people try and make the case that he should be a top 10 running back. I think all of those things are absolutely asinine, absolutely wild, absolutely idiotic. Like, okay, not everyone can be the next Saquon Barkley, the next Najee Harris. Okay, so sure, so many rookie running backs out of the last couple of seasons have had a top 10 finish. But folks, landing spot matters. Yes, I understand in a perfect scenario, Breece Hall, can be the best rookie running back in this class. But you should also look at the surroundings. First and foremost, it's still the New York Jets. I'm personally not sold on Zach Wilson. I'm not sold on this offense. I'm not sold on there being times where the rushing attack is going to be phased out of games because this offense is subpar. And I still think that's going to be a thing that we see this year. Also, let's not forget Breece Hall is still there with one Michael Carter, who the Jets just drafted last season. Now, I do think Breece Hall is going to get, kind of the first shake and the majority of opportunities, but I don't think Michael Carter is going to be a forgotten man. He proved that he was capable last season. He got nicked up at certain points in time, but I don't think he's going to go away. And for that reason, there's also going to be competition on a very questionable offense and one where the rushing attack could be phased out from time to time. So for all those reasons, while yes, Breece Hall does have the upside, while I loved him as my top running back prospect, I absolutely hated the landing spot for the Jets. Now, sure, maybe in a year, 2 from now, this won't be an issue, but I think in the short term, I think just for 2022, people just need to pump the brakes on Breece Hall a little bit. We don't need to crown everyone the next Saquon Barkley, and that's the main issue here. Like, if you can get Breece Hall like after the 4th round, then sure, okay, I'll take that chance. But the fact that he's going in the 2nd, early 3rd, that is way, way too rich for my blood. So for that reason, I'm out on Breece Hall, and I think he is way too risky this year. Moving on, I want to talk Josh Jacobs of the Raiders. And to me, he might be the poster child of this category, where he either booms or busts. And I'm not sure which way he's going to go, because yes, he's in a contract here and he did not get, re-signed by the Raiders. So probably what that means is he's not going to be back with the Raiders next year, but they're going to ride him until the wheels come off. However, they've said that basically with what they've done with their additions via the draft, that maybe that won't be the case. Getting Zamir White as a rookie running back, Kenyon Drake still being there. Josh Jacobs will not see the same pass catching work that he did last year. That is a guarantee. So he will regress from that standpoint 1,000%. Last year he benefited, and he was a surprise, contributor in that category, because guys like Darren Waller were hurt. It was pretty much just Hunter Renfrow. Kenyon Drake got hurt. So it was Hunter Renfrow, then Josh Jacobs. And that kind of increased his floor and his ceiling. But now it's going to be Josh Jacobs of old. It's going to be kind of just a standard-based run-first rusher, where he's not going to contribute as much in the pass-catching attack. There's going to be swaps between him, Drake, him, and White. And it's going to be a frustrating situation. Yes, this is going to be a better offense, but I'm not sure what we're going to see from Jacobs here. Again, on one spectrum, he could be in for a huge workload because the Raiders want to just ride the wheels off him and just use him up as much as they can because they know they're not going to pay him next season. But also, all these moves that they've made, the fact that he's not going to have the same pass catching upside, I think could really, really lower his ceiling for this year. And if you're looking at production from last season, I think you're absolutely doing it the wrong way. So for that reason, Josh Jacobs is definitely one of the riskiest options this year. And then finally, let's wrap it up here with Elijah Mitchell. Still a top 25 guy, comes in at the number 24 spot. He's also a dude that last year, incredibly impressive, somebody that came out of nowhere and just took the running back job for the 49ers, so much for Trey Sermon or really anyone else. But he was also nicked up, which, kind of cost him some consistency. But when he was there, he was great. And the 49ers gave him every opportunity. Problem now, first and foremost, Jimmy Garoppolo versus Trey Lance. Is Jimmy Garoppolo going to still be on the 49ers, or is it going to be Trey Lance for the majority of the season? If it's Trey Lance for the majority of the season, which is what I would bet my money on, every one of these guys for the 49ers, these big names, they're going to have their ceiling decreased, but maybe more than anyone, Elijah Mitchell. The reason for that is Trey Lance is a run-first quarterback. He's automatically going to be a favorite to be top 5 in rushing at the position, and that's going to impact Elijah Mitchell. There's no way around it. Elijah Mitchell also not that great of a pass-catching running back. The 49ers continue to add running back talent in this year's draft as well. And with the possible injury situation there with Elijah Mitchell, he was a little bit, again, nicked up last season. Durability, is that going to be a thing? And the fact that, we know the propensity of the 49ers to ride the hot hand with the running back position, just because one running back has one big year the year prior. We've seen it with guys like Mostert. We've seen it with so many names on this running back rotation. Nothing is guaranteed for them the next season. The good news is you can get him cheaper. You can probably get him around the 4th round, which is the nice thing. But I still think he's squarely in that boom or bust situation. He could potentially be a high-end RB2, maybe even a low-end RB1 if the things play out the way they did last year. But with all those potential question marks that I mentioned prior to this, the quarterback position, the health of Mitchell, the competition that he has, that could lead to him just being a bust and being somebody that has a lot of aggression compared to last year and disappoints in terms of where he's being drafted. So for that reason, he is the final name on our list. But with that, we wrap up this breakdown of our top 5 boom or bust running backs for this 2022 fantasy football season. Or if you want to look at it, the riskiest running backs for this 2022 season. As always, if you guys enjoyed, hit that like button, subscribe. Let us hear in the comment section, do you agree, disagree with these inclusions? What other names would you put on this list? And lastly, check out the 2022 fantasy football ADP fantasy football draft guide, now available for purchase. Everything you want at a great value. Details in the description. But in the meantime, we'll see you guys in future videos.